So all of us at some level, man or woman, wants to be a hero. The word hero in its Latin root means servo. Servo means servant. It actually means slave. The hero, why they're the hero, is become the ultimate servant to something larger than themselves, people and so forth. The person who thinks they're going to lead by demand or by position can only lead for a short period of time. But the person whose idea of serving is, my belief is, if you can find a way to take any group of people and help them to experience their needs at a richer, deeper level than anyone else, then together you guys can get anything done. Anything. Now, it may not work the first time, but together you can get to that point. Because needs are ultimately what we're after. We're not after the vehicle we think we're after. You want $1 billion, then you get it. I got plenty of clients, and I will tell you, it is not the end game. And so then they go after their second billion. Or you think it's getting married, and then you get it, and you find out it's not the end game. There's certain needs that have to be there, and the ultimate needs are growing and giving. Because you only can feel so good filled up by yourself. So my core belief is, I gotta serve. If I serve, I can lead. Because I believe motive does matter. If my motive is just to get you to do something for me, there's a certain amount of power that I can get to do that if I strategize, if I think, if I feel, and also if it serves a greater good, even if I don't intend it. If the bumblebee goes to try to get the nectar it wants, its selfish goal, I believe there's a higher power that guides it all. And when that bumblebee goes, it doesn't intend to give anything but pollen sticks to its legs. As it goes about trying to get what it wants, that's how flowers are created. I really believe that everything has a web of connection. If your intent is to serve yourself, you're still going to serve something more than yourself, and you're going to get a certain amount of insight. If your intent and your motive is to serve something, yourself, but also something more, just your kids, then I believe you get a different level of insight. And because you're serving more of what serves life. It's not just me, it's me and my family. If you're trying to serve a community, I believe you get a different level of insight. If you're trying to serve humanity, you get a different level of insight. I get emotional thinking about it because this is why I do what I do. So when someone stands up, it's not about business, it's not about anything, but about serving them. So I will use abrasive or creative language. I'll use whatever it takes, humor, stupidity, I'll make fun of myself, I'll challenge, I'll do anything to serve. That's why I'm here. I don't need to do that anymore, but I love to see someone free and alive and lit up. So when that's your motive, no matter how people perceive you on the outside, if they're around you long enough, you can't hide what your real motive is. And they'll see it and they'll feel it. Motive does matter. If it's to serve something high, it'll be there. That doesn't mean you don't get served too. And in business, you gotta be served. Or I used to do business and I lose money in the business and everybody else was happy. And it was wonderful, except I had no business. So it's, killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. So I've learned to put that balance in. But that gives me power. That's why time disappears for me. Because I'm not about getting some action done. I'm about the outcome. There are certain patterns that cause people to be fulfilled, to be happy, to fit, to be strong, to feel alive, to be vibrant, to have passion in their life, to do well financially, but even more importantly, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, in their health and their relationships. And there are also patterns that make people frustrated, overwhelmed, depressed, sad, lonely, cause them to be struggling financially, struggling with their body, struggling intimately. And those patterns, they're not because there's something wrong with somebody, it's because of a pattern that we're doing. Now, what's the fastest way to create a change? In basically developing the one thing that all people have in common who succeed, they're leaders. Because I don't care what style you are, I don't care if you're a mom, if you're a great mom, you lead your child, you're not led by your child. Or a great dad. If you're a great business person, you're a great salesperson, you're a great negotiator, you're a great anything, you're a great human being. This has been my entire life's obsession. What makes the difference in people's lives? And that leadership component, as I say, doesn't always mean somebody follows you. A leader is somebody who lives life on their terms, that you will never settle for less than you can be or share or give or create. It's not what we get that makes us happy, it's who we become. How we live our life, who we are as a person. People can take away all the things, but who you become, no one can take away. And the problem is most of us are trying to be something we're not. And it isn't so much about change, about changing yourself. The change happens when you be yourself. Know thyself, that's the hard part for most people, and then be thyself. Because most of us in our lives, out of our desire for respect or achievement or love or connection or something, we've been trying to be the way we think we'd have to be in order to get that love, respect, appreciation, whatever it is we've been after at some unconscious level. And we've been doing it so long that we think that this is who we are. Because success without fulfillment is failure. And I can't tell you how many people I work with who are supposedly the best in the world at what they do, and they have more money than they can spend, and they have all these people that love and respect them, and yet they're unhappy inside. Because if you want to know what's really you, where you're going to be alive is when it's really you. And you may even think you know who you are because you've been living a certain way, but I'll tell you how you'll know. You'll feel euphoric, you'll feel strong, you'll feel unlimited, you'll feel free. I have seen, out of 3 million people around this earth in 80 countries, I've seen just about anything you can see, and there are only so many patterns. And what you're going to find underneath all of this behavior is we have the same needs. When you understand what those needs are and which ones you're focusing on, you start to understand why people do the crazy things they do, including you and I. And you begin to understand, hey, there might be a better way to meet my needs, and I don't have to get caught up in this game of stress and frustration and upset, or I could really help this person I care about, because I could see what's really going on. Part of what we want to accomplish here as leaders is we want to become practical psychologists. We want to understand what's really going on so we can help, so we can make a difference, so we can transform. So yes, of course you can do better in your business, because the more you understand about what people need and want, the greater you're going to be, the better manager, better leader, the better mom or dad, the better friend. And there's a better you that's available when you understand what's driving you. But most of us are running patterns over and over again, and we want to free that up. To free it up, we got to break the pattern. We got to do things that are different. So we're going to do something different. I'm not here because I believe in positive thinking. If you think that's what I believe, you don't know much about me. I'm not one of those people that believes you're supposed to go to your garden and chant, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds. There's weeds right there. All right, that's what I believe. Here's what I believe. I believe that if you really want to be effective, you got to tell the truth. What I want you to get is that the single most important skill in life, it's the word that all leaders have. What would that word be? Influence. What changes companies is leaders. The only way to change a company is leadership. If I want to change a company that I own and I want to make a shift in that company, the number one thing I'm going to do is shifting leadership. That might be taking leaders to a different level. That might bring new leaders in. That might be new leaders of new voices with new perspectives, with new skill sets, new directions, but we need to take things to another level. Leaders solve problems and leaders maximize resources. If you're going to solve problems, you can't do it yourself or it would have already been solved. You have to get others to help you to do it. That requires influence. True? If you're going to get people to maximize resources, that requires influence. If you're going to get people to partner with you, provide you resources, capital, suppliers, anything, that requires influence. If you're going to have an impact on your kids or your community or the world, that requires influence. There is no more important skill of leadership than influence. And yet most of us think of it like selling, and as a result, we don't master influence. So I'm not here today to try and get you to become a master of influence in 45 minutes or so of my chatting with you here, because we have so many other speakers. This is the area of life I am most focused on. Because I know that if you can't influence, you can't lead. But if you can influence powerfully, intelligently, with integrity, there's no limit to whatever you can envision and what you can make real. And if your influence becomes not just you as the influence, but you're able to influence systems, people, company, culture. If you can turn other people into influencers, now whatever you vision about can be made into a reality. And so as a skill of influence, we got to ask ourselves, how many agree leaders are what change companies? Raise your hand if you agree with that. Say aye. And leaders' number one skill is influence. If you agree, say aye. But then the question becomes, how do you influence? How do you influence consistently with integrity? You can influence many ways. You can do it without integrity. But the good news is we live in a world today where whatever you do, it's transparent to the world because there are no secrets anymore, are there? Try to have a secret today, bless you. You can forget the secret. With the internet, with the culture we have, with the way the world is today, there are no more secrets, and whatever you think is still possible to keep secret, give it 3 or 4 more years and it'll be impossible. Every phone call you make is recorded. There's no single phone call that goes in and out of North America that they don't have a recording of, and they can search by word, by tone, by tempo. They can even recognize voices now. There is no such thing as privacy. Everything you've ever put on the internet is there forever, and people know it and can search it. The way you write is searchable now. You can not sign your email, you can put it on somebody else's email, and the structure of your language and the way you influence things can be studied at this level. So the good news about that is manipulation as an ongoing tool for success is over. But adding value will never go out of style. Truth will never go out of style. So influencing with integrity is the secret. But what really influences people? Do facts and figures, we give you enough facts and figures out of a core story, is that going to influence people? No. It's the weaving of that story together in a way that produces what shifts people. And that's human emotion. Ultimately, the big game here is emotion. You have to influence emotion. You have to influence the emotion of your people. If you're going to maximize resources, and if we all agree, as we talked about the other day, it's not a lack of resources, it's a lack of what? Resourcefulness. If you're creative enough, if you're playful enough, if you're determined enough, if you're focused enough, you can find a way. If you're giving enough, if you're generous enough, if you're honest enough, if you're courageous enough, you will get people to help you. You will find the way. You will make that thing happen. You'll access the resource. You get someone to coach you, teach you, loan it to you, let you try it, drive it, experience it. So it's the ability to influence emotion, because that's what affects our intellect. That's the bottom line. A core story is only there to give you a set of facts to educate someone that will make them emotional enough to make a decision. And what they do is they go through a series of things that you have emotions about. They may say them in a non-emotional way, but the only reason they work is because you know they're going to open the person's emotion. How many agree with me on this? Say aye. So as leaders, we can never forget that humans are emotional creatures, including ourselves. And to influence other people, we have to know what already influences them. And we can't ever forget what truly influences them. It's going to come down to our ability to connect with them at a deep emotional level, or get others to do the same. Here's how I'd say it in a really simple term. To influence someone, you have to already be influenced. Right? To move somebody, you better be moved. To touch somebody, you can't touch somebody about your product or service or vision or idea or your company if you're not touched. To persuade others, you have to be persuaded. You can't give somebody else what you don't have. Now, you may have it intellectually, and here's the challenge. When you first meet somebody in your relationship, and you're all excited, what's the level of energy like? 0 to 10, make the sound of that energy. You meet somebody you're totally excited by, make the sound, everyone. 6 months, 6 years, 20 years later. It's scary, isn't it? And it's not time, because there are people I've been with them, been together 65 years, and they're still out of their mind for each other. They make the same amount of noise you did in the beginning here. What changes is, very often, when you're around something enough, I don't care what it is, there's a law called the law of familiarity. The law of familiarity says this: if you're around something enough, you take it just a little bit for granted. And it doesn't matter what it is, it's not that you don't care, it's that you get used to it. It's that the variety of it is not quite as high. It's not so new, and with that, sometimes you give it less significance. Even though in your heart you know it's significant, you don't keep the aliveness of it. It becomes something you intellectualize versus something you feel inside your body with a passion. So there are people who say, but we love each other. Yeah, well, that's great. You know, you hug each other every now and then, you say you love each other, little kiss like that. Was that how it was in the beginning? No. It isn't time. It's that most people don't understand that this emotion, this intensity, this passion has to be constantly reinforced every single day. And like any muscle, if you don't use it, so then you have the base understanding of why you do what you do, but you've lost the energy that makes it alive. And so if you're going to be touching people, you got to be touched. So then the question is, how do we influence ourselves? How do we influence other people? We got to get them into their emotions. We got to get ourselves into the emotions that are going to move us to action. And we got to do that ongoing, because otherwise all the stuff you wrote down will die. It'll die in your book, it'll die in your head. There has to be a level of emotion, a level of hunger in you that makes you go follow through. There's got to be a level of energy in you that when you go share it with people, you're able to influence them to follow through. And when they don't do it, enough to get back in there with them again and get them to do it again. This is where the whole game gets won or lost. Do you agree or disagree with me on this? So what we got to look at is, first of all, us. How many of you have days when you wake up and you feel like, I don't want to talk to people today? How many got days like this in your life? Say aye. But again, as I said the other day, If you're the leader, you don't have that choice. If you're the leader, you have to get in a good state. If you're the leader, you have to get yourself in that place. And how many of you have had some gut checks? Let me see again in the last 6 months, 12 months in your business with economy changing like it's never changed before. How many have had those gut checks? Say aye. So what do? We have to become masters of influence, which means we have to be able to master the state of our own organization. To master the state of our own organization, we've got to know how to change that. How fast, my friends? How fast? And where does it have to start? Ourselves, since we're the first constraint. And if we can do it with ourselves and influence, then we can teach everybody else to influence. We've said business is innovation and marketing. You have to influence people to innovate because they're not going to just do it because they're used to what works and it's easier and they know it. Innovation means massive what? Change. How many people go, give me more massive change in my life with all the other things I'm trying to hang on to? They're not going to do that. You have to influence people to innovate. And marketing is influence. So, what influences us is our states. How do we change our states? Let's start with you and I and with anybody we're going to work with. You've worked with me before, you know the first answer. If you're going to change somebody's state, the fastest way to do it is physical. Trying to change somebody's mind is really hard. Change their body, their mind will go. If you doubt it, give somebody enough alcohol and just see how quickly you can change them. True? Give them enough alcohol, I don't care who they are, they're going to change. What are you changing? Biochemistry, physiology. Physical body and the emotion, the mind will shift. That's why people take drugs. That's why people eat. When they go eat, it's a biochemical change in their body. So, but we can do this through movement. We can do this through change. So if you want to be the leader and you're going to be affected, first thing I'd say to all of you going home, so you don't feel overwhelmed, is you need to develop an ongoing discipline because we are our rituals. And I mean a physical one. If you want to say, well, why is my life the way it is today? Look at your rituals. Whether you call them rituals or not, you have them. Most of you get up and you have a set of rituals. You go straight to email, or you go straight and work out, or you go have your breakfast, or you hit the snooze alarm at least 3 times. It's your ritual. Who knows what I'm talking about here? And if you want to know what somebody's like, you can see their rituals. You can look at anybody's body in this room, if you had them take their clothes off, and you know some of their rituals or lack thereof. Is it true? If every day you get up and your ritual is you go to Starbucks and order a smoke boca, whatever those things are that you have, right? And a big muffin and whatever it is, right? And that's what you do every day. It's not hard to figure out what you're going to be like by 10:30 in the morning. You're going to be looking for your next coffee, your next whatever, because we want to stimulate your adrenal glands like crazy, and they're going to drop predictably. And we know what your stress level is going to be like. We know when your energy is going to go and fade. It's predictable because of your rituals. If you eat a certain way, you can predict that person's going to be fat and tired. You eat a different way, you know. If a person eats and they exercise a certain way, you know what their body's going to be like. Who here works out 5 days a week, never misses? It's just your life. Let me see your hands. Look at the number of people here. That's fantastic. Give everybody a hand. That's really fantastic. Who here honestly never works out consistently? Right? Don't clap. Now here's what's interesting. I'm not saying one is right as one is wrong, but will those 2 different rituals create a different body, yes or no? Yes. If we wanted to really make it clear, we'd say everybody works out 5 days a week, stand up, we can look at them, sit down. Everybody doesn't work out, stand up, look at them. It'll be pretty obvious. Now, some people's metabolism is different, they can get by with different things, but you get the picture, don't you? Your relationships today are the results of your rituals. If the first thing you do every day when you come home is, hi, honey, and then you go and give them a little peck on the cheek, and then you sit down and start typing your emails, or you flip on the news, it's not hard to know what your relationship's going to be like. You guys might love each other, but it's going to be one boring, dead relationship. It's like having a brother or sister. But if your new ritual was, and you just, in the beginning, you made it a ritual. You just made it for fun. You say, every day when I come home, the minute I'm going to do is I'm going to yell my husband or wife's name, or sometimes my wife's a little crazy, so I go, Lucy! I'm home, and then we both go running. Wherever she is in the house, wherever in the house, we go running full speed like lovers that haven't seen each other in 6 months. We do it. Ask my assistant all the time. Now, not every day, but it's our ritual to this process, right? It's just a crazy thing. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the hand, but that's not why I'm telling you to do this. I'm telling you this because I want you to create yours. Because when you do that and you're playful and crazy, and you do that on a regular basis, like you can't wait to see each other. And the biggest ritual that we have besides physical, and by the way, let me just say to you this. When you go home, if you want to transform your business, transform you by creating first, if you don't already have one, a set of physical rituals that you're not going to miss. I don't care if it's 3 days a week, 4 days a week, something that's going to make you physically strong, because in a place where there's going to be a lot of fear, the way you deal with crisis is number one thing you should do is feed your mind. And you're doing that. Get yourself new answers, immerse yourself in new environments, get new voices, have new perspectives, ask some new questions. Isn't that what we've been doing here? Right? And we're doing it together and bringing all these people together. I basically, to create innovation in your life and marketing, I've assembled here 19 people. You assembled 5 days of your life, and we're just rocking day and night. It's the total immersion of what I taught you in innovation. It's really what it is, but it's got to continue. For it to continue, though, we've also been managing your state to a great extent. Right? Most of you don't go home and 4 or 5 days a day start clapping like crazy and screaming and shaking. You don't do that usually. Right? And so some of you are going to go like, wow, it doesn't feel the same as at the seminar and stuff. You know, I'm back here by myself and my people aren't doing this. But some of you will go home and initiate this. You're going to have your Physiology 5, your 5 minutes of physiology shift, once an hour, once every 90 minutes, or no more than once every 2 hours. You're going to start your morning with everybody, and you're going to bring in and get some little audio clip of something from a movie or something that blasts across, the room, and have everybody stand at attention. You're going to do some crazy stuff if you're smart. Go over Zappos and see what they do. They got the most crazy stuff going on there. All the stuff that I do in seminars, they do every day at their location with their people. And people can't wait to get to work and they're in a certain state.